I'm Keith Milward, and I'm reflecting on memories of the Grand Theatre. And for me, the very earliest memories would have been seeing pantomime. I remember coming to see Aladdin, and it was so magical. And I was entranced by this world of music and colour and dancing, and I just was bowled over by it all. But one thing I remember in particular, there was a comedy scene going on in the kitchen, and they were making cakes, and they had pastry, and there were bits of pastry being thrown into the audience, and one of the bits of pastry landed on my head, just hit me there. And I thought, this world, which I thought, well, is a long, long way away or unreachable, suddenly I realised that this world of colour was attainable, and it was actually coming alive for me at that moment. So it sort of was like an eye-opener. And that piece of pastry I kept for months. I must have had for months, because my mum had the piece of pastry in her handbag. I remember going really hard, but every so often I'd be saying, "Oh, Mum, can I see that bit of pastry for the pantomime?" And you know, I do remember then other pantomimes being brought here. My father worked in ICI, in Alcoa, and there would be trips that the children would come along to the pantomime. One I remember in particular, in the interval, having this ice cream and so stirring up the ice cream. But the warmth there and such genuine warmth and genuine laughter, and I remember I can see the colours, and I can see the dancing girls. Now, before they went to the ball for Cinderella, they actually had the dancing girls as soldiers outside. I can see that so clearly. And another scene I remember was Jack and the Beanstalk, and the whole house opened after the opening number in the village square or wherever. The shop or the house opened, and then we were inside the building. I thought, well, how can they do that? You know, and for a little boy, you know, from a village, I was always interested in entertainment. My parents would allow me to sit up and see Sunday night at the London Palladium. But when I was in the Grand seeing the pantomimes, you know, it was this world I so much wanted to be part of. And another pantomime I remember being, well, I saw several pantomimes up in the gods, up in the upper circle, and the padded benches or the padded steps, really, and coming up the, climbing all the stairs. I remember another Aladdin, and Nicky Stevens was in it, who was in the Brotherhood of Man then, and the Dame Reg Dixon singing Confidentially, and then the world of the willow pattern plate came alive at one time. Again, mesmerised. But one of the pantomimes was Stan Stennett. It was 1969, the record-breaking pantomime here. I think it started on Boxing Day and went right the way through till March, you know, so it was even playing during the half-term holiday of February. But I remember as a boy looking down, and it was one of the best, I felt, Robinson Crusoe, but there was an adventure within the story, and you were taken to the different islands and all the colourful costumes of different parts of the world, particularly Hawaii, I remember. And little did I know that I think I must have been about 11 at that time. But then years later, I actually was in pantomime, asked to be in pantomime with Stan Stennett and Johnny Tudor, who had been playing Robinson Crusoe. I was asked to be in pantomime with them, and a Welsh touring pantomime. And little did I know when I was 11 that those years later I'd be playing their mother. So I was the mother to Stan Stennett and the mother to Johnny Tudor, Mrs. Crusoe in Robinson Crusoe. So when that actually happened, I thought, well, this is uncanny. If that little boy of 11, you know, could have seen into the future that I'd be on stage with these great people, I just wouldn't have believed it. But I think I had to pinch myself as an adult to think, I had those memories so clear. And there I was acting with them years later. But still, I still see the world of magic, because in the more recent pantomimes, I'm still watching it and taking so much in, because over the years I've been so lucky to be in many amateur shows and some professional shows, and I've directed shows. So I've got the eye, of the adult director, but I can still lose myself in the magic of the pantomime. My first memory of being on stage here, I have such a strong memory, because it was a production of The King and I with Swansea amateurs. I'm going back to 1980, 81, beginning of 1981. And one of the children was Catherine Zeta-Jones, so one of the King's children. So I remembered her, and I remembered so many. There was Nia Trustler, and a great gang of the youngsters. I was only just a few years older, so at times I was playing the oldest son of the king, Chula Longhorn, Prince Chula Longhorn. But I do remember that I was so proud to say that I was coming and I was going to be on stage of the Grand. And I remember telling somebody in a shop on my way, I'm going to be on the Grand Theatre stage tonight. And when I came to the theatre that night, and although we'd had the rehearsals, my first step onto the stage, I thought, my gosh, I'm so nervous. I was still focused, but I remember my knees were actually shaking. And I thought, will my legs still hold me up? But yes, so it is quite a strong... I think the first thing I had to do on stage was to stay still, because I also played like a guard, a palace guard, and I just stand there. And I hadn't realised, it's only on reflection, one of the hardest things to do on the stage is to stay absolutely still. If you're animated, it's... most could possibly do that, but to stand still and to blink as little as you can. I don't know, I just thought my legs were going to cave away. Other memories of early days on the Grand Theatre stage, I was in a production of My Fair Lady, and the one and only Rhea Jones was playing Eliza. She was just 14. She was just a few weeks, 14 and a few weeks old. And I remember dancing on stage with her. And again, such a well-directed piece of theatre. The whole show directed by Bob Marlowe. He always got the most out of this script with the drama, but also top-notch choreographer, and just that the whole production was just so beautiful, especially with My Fair Lady, a very special show. But there's many shows that I've been dancing. I'm thinking of 42nd Street, and then one of my favourite shows, Guys and Dolls, having played Benny South Street 3 times. I still say that if any production of Guys and Dolls, that Benny South Street goes ill, I could just go learn it within a few minutes. I could go up and do it again. But no, Guys and Dolls. But reflecting also, when I was saying about Stan Stennett in the pantomimes here, when I watched as a boy, the age of 11, and back in 2010... so we're talking about virtually 40 years gap. But I was back on stage here with Stan Stennett and Johnny Tudor in a production called Bless Them All. So again, to be working with these greats, really, and I see them as legendary, really, especially when you think of the Grand Theatre history, but to be part of that, so magical. And the first half, I was there really to be singing together and to have the whole grand singing with you when you're on stage. That's such a special feeling, you know, and that feeling that we're all one. And I think with the shape of the theatre, the horseshoe shape of the circle, it really brings the audience to the performer like no other theatre, really. I know I've been lucky to be on other theatre stages. You know, I'm talking about the Aberdare Coliseum. I'm talking about the Sherman Theatre in Cardiff. I'm talking about all different South Wales theatres. But the warmth, I'm sure it's not only if you're part of Swansea. I live in Dunvant. You know, I'm sure that whoever and wherever you came from, you'd have that warmth because of the shape of the theatre. There's something, it just goes straight to the heart. And over the years, I was in so many different productions, particularly as an amateur. And at one time, I'd be in at least 3 shows on the Grand Theatre stage. Now, there was a gap before I did the Bless Them All show at Stansted. I hadn't actually been on the stage for several years, but I walked onto the stage for a little bit of a run-through before the audience were invited in. But I just felt it was like walking into my own living room. I just thought, I'm so at home here. How is that? But of course, then I reflected that I was here so many evenings, particularly the 1980s, the 1990s, all those productions. And when you think about it, you know, each of the productions was running for about a week. So if I was to count up the number of evenings I've performed on the Grand Theatre stage, well, it would come to tens, possibly even 100 or 200, I don't know. But when it was the centenary of the Grand Theatre, I was invited to the special afternoon here and was introduced to Princess Margaret. And I had been chosen, yes, because I'd been on the stage so many times, but whatever records there were of the Grand Theatre, they realised that I was one of the most regular attenders of the productions, all productions, because I just love to see what is on the stage. I'm always intrigued, whatever production, to see how it's staged, whether it is, you know, with a box set or with an imaginary sort of creative set, what the lighting is, you know. So I just can't get enough. I want to see that. And then I'm taken by different performances. And yes, I might have seen the popular musicals like The Sound of Music, you know, 20 times, 30, 40 times. But each time a director will put his own stamp on it, or the performer themselves will they'll bring something else out of the character, or sing a song in a different way to others. And I think that's so clever, you know. So I am, I suppose the word is, besotted with the theatre and all productions at the Grand Theatre. Well, hopes for the future. Well, I'm praying and hoping that the Grand has a very successful future. And I have been asked so many times in the last year or so, what's going to happen to the Grand Theatre? Now, there's the arena in Swansea. But I reflect back to when VHS and video was first brought out. Everybody thought it's the end for the cinema. So many people were saying this. What actually happened was that it made more of an interest for people in film, and they couldn't get enough of the cinema experience. So they went to see whatever it was on the big screen before it came to VHS. Now, in a similar way, I think that with other venues like the arena, I've heard this good news with the Albert Hall. I believe that people would become interested in entertainment again. And I know a lot of thoughts at the moment that some of the bigger or biggest productions come to Cardiff, and people, well, they think, oh, well, we'll just pop up the road and see a show in Cardiff. But when they realise that these wonderful venues are in Swansea, including and especially the Grand Theatre, I think there'll be a resurgence of interest in entertainment, and people will want to have that theatre experience again. And I've said it earlier that the Grand is so special, that it's such a warm building, and I think that more will become interested in the other entertainment venues, and then we'll have the experience of the Grand Theatre and will be wowed, and they'll want to come back for more. Seeing the pantomimes here inspired me then to set the scenes together, but also introduce the characters. You know, there's some dancing girls from a finale there, so which I suppose they'd be coming in like that, but they are more suited to the palace set, because these I've recreated the dancing girls. You know, they would be very much like that in the pantomime. I think that actually that character comes from Aladdin's cave. So I've got the set here for Aladdin's cave, but things would be very much as they were here, as a child would see it. And there's certain scenes, like the giant's table, you know, that's again recreating what I saw on the stage. And there's Aladdin, you know, so again, it would be all the different sets. On a desert island, up in the clouds, going to the giant's castle, even some glitter. On board ship. And, well, of course, then Cinderella has to have a coach, doesn't she? You know, so again, that would be with something like that in the background. But the coach would be appearing with the horses. These have been on the top of my wardrobe for years. I haven't looked at them for a long time. But no, these sets would be very, very, very similar to what was on the stage here. This one in particular is exactly as I remember it, because I wouldn't have thought about perspective and things like that. I didn't know what perspective was when I was drawing these things, but that would have been exactly the set for the Arabian scene, or you know. So, but there's so many memories. As soon as I look in here, you know, it brings it back to me that I'd have like the sparkly curtains again. Best to see that in here, you know, see the sparkly curtains, and there'd be even a different backdrop there. You know, we could use that one for the giant's castle again. That would go well behind there. You know, so I'd be messing around and giving it dimension. Now, I was 14 when I was still playing with this toy pantomime, that we used to call it, and I started introducing lighting. My parents thought I would never grow out of it, but I suppose I haven't grown out of it. It's just that I'm using real people instead of the stick characters. You know, I think there were less problems with the stick characters than when you put in a production together. But I think once you know about my toy theatre, and there's so many other things I could show you here. I could go on and on. You know, I had Christmas shows, dancing girls in the Christmas shows. You know, there they are. You know, hands in a muff, and you know, but there's over 300 characters here altogether. There's Cinderella and all the pantomimes. I even wrote my own pantomime, and it was called The Silver Bullets. And it was a set for a pantomime, but it was a cowboy story. So I started doing that at about the age of 14. But there's so much I could show. This is just scratching the surface of a little bit of the information about my toy theatre.